Okay, so continuing in section 2.8, we're going to be talking about what we call the difference quotient and talk about how to find that. And this is something that if you were to go into trig and calculus after this class, you will learn more about this difference quotient. And we're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I do think it's important you understand at least what it's talking about. And so in this diagram here at the bottom of the screen, you see this red graph, maybe a parabola shape, it could be other shapes as well. Um, that graph you see goes through points P and Q. Well, the line that connects points P and Q is what we know as the secant line. Okay, and the difference quotient is how we're going to find the slope of that line, the steepness of that line. Okay, so we've talked about slope. That's something that we will talk more about moving forward, but that is something that definitely is going to be common to you that you're going to see. But this difference quotient allows us to find that slope. And so basically, what the secant or the difference quotient does is it takes point P, which we'll say has an ordered pair of f of x. So remember, f of x is the same thing as y, right? So that's the x and y values. And point Q is going to have the ordered pair x plus h, f of x plus h. Again, an x and a y coordinate. Now, the x plus h and the f of x, that can all sort of be confusing. And so, really, what you need to know is that this is going to be our formula for finding that difference quotient. Now, there typically is one problem like this on your final exam. I usually give one problem, maybe two, but typically only one problem like this on your test. And so as we're looking at finding this difference quotient, we're only going to do one or two examples. We're not going to spend tons of time here. So the way we're going to find the difference quotient is we're going to find the first term in the numerator. So go back to this f of x plus h. Well, now we know from evaluating functions that the way we find that is to take x plus h and put it in place of x in the function. Okay, so that's going to be the first part. Step 2 is going to be to find the entire numerator. So the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x. Well, step 1 is to find this. So it's going to be step 1. Step 2 is to find the whole thing together so that whatever we get when we put in x plus h minus the original function, that's going to be step 2. And then our formula is that we take that numerator and we divide it by h. And so that's going to be step 3. And this process is not going to be overly difficult. Just the notation looks kind of weird. It's something different that you probably haven't seen. And so that can be what throws you off. But if you understand we're just going to take it kind of piece by piece, then hopefully it's not going to be too terrible. If you need to pause the video to copy all of this down, I definitely would encourage you to do that. I'm going to move on and show you how to work a couple of these. All right, so we're going to find the difference quotient. And when we find the difference quotient, again, we're using this formula. So this slope is f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. So the first thing we want to find is f of x plus h. Okay, that's going to be step number 1. And I'm going to just number these so you can kind of see the steps here. So to find f of x plus h, we're going to take x plus h and put it in place of x in the function. So we're going to have 2 times x plus h squared minus 3 times x plus h. And then we need to simplify that. So we need to start by squaring x plus h. Now, if you need to pull this out to the side, here at the top of the screen, you can see this, and write x plus h squared as x plus h times x plus h, and then FOIL, then you can do so. And so you'll do first, outer, inner, last. And when you do, you should get x squared plus xh plus xh plus h squared. And when you combine the two terms in the middle, one x plus xh plus the other xh is going to be 2xh. And so when you do square that binomial, you should have x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And then it's still minus 3 times x plus h. Now, we're going to take the 2 and distribute and the negative 3 and distribute. So we'll distribute that and then also distribute that. And so we're going to have 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared. And then when we distribute the negative 3, it's negative 3x minus 3h. Now, that is step number 1. We found f of x plus h. But step 2 says that we're going to find f of x plus h minus f of x. So, we're going to take all this stuff that we just had, this 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h, and we're going to subtract from that the original function, f of x, which in this case is 2x squared minus 3x. Now you need to make sure that you keep the 2x squared minus 3x in parentheses, because this negative here applies to both of those. So we're actually going to distribute that negative. If you don't distribute that negative, it's going to mess everything up. So in doing that, we're going to have 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h minus 2x squared plus 3x. Now, why is it important that you distribute that negative? Well, if you did this correctly, you're going to have some stuff that cancels out. In fact, every term of that original function should cancel out with something else. So if you look at what we have here, when you combine like terms, this 2x squared and now negative 2x squared is 0. Cancels out. But also this negative 3x and positive 3x now also is 0. It cancels out. And so what's left then is 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3h. So there's step 2. So then step 3 is to take all of that, so the f over x, or f of x plus h minus f of x, and divide that by h. So we're going to take this stuff that we just found and we're going to divide it by h. And so what happens here, if you've done this correctly, is this h on the bottom is going to cancel an h out of each term. So it's going to cancel this h, one of these h's, and this h. And of course the one on the bottom is canceling with those. And so then our final answer ends up being 4x plus 2h minus 3. And there is your final difference quotient. So it's kind of a process, but if you just kind of take it step by step, then every time it's going to work out in a very similar way. So what I'd encourage you to do is pause the video and try the next one on your own Give you about 3 seconds to pause it, and then I'll work it for you. Okay, so if we do this one again, we're going to find f of x plus h. That's our first part. And so we're going to take x plus h and put it in place of x in function f. So we're going to put x plus h there, minus 2 times x plus h plus 4. And so again, when we square that x plus h, again, you can see that at the top of the screen how that would work. We should end up with x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And then I'll distribute all in one step in a second. And so we'll distribute the 3, and we'll also distribute the negative 2. And so we end up with 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared. And then distribute the negative 2, and we have negative 2x minus 2h plus 4. So that's the first part. That's step 1. But then we need to take all of that, and there's not any like terms here. You'll notice you have an x squared, an xh, an h squared, xh, and constant. But we need to take all of that and now subtract the original function. So instead of having to rewrite it, I'm just going to take all of this and I'm going to subtract from it that original function, which is 3x squared minus 2x plus 4. Now, again, this negative needs to get distributed. And so we'll do that. So we got 3x squared plus 6xh plus 3h squared minus 2x minus 2h plus 4. So all of that stuff staying the way it is. But then here's where we change our sign. So when we distribute the negative, we have negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 4. And again, if we've done that right, those last terms, the ones from the original function, should all cancel out. So you'll see 3x squared and negative 3x squared, they cancel. And then negative 2x and positive 2x cancel. And then positive 4 and negative 4 all cancel. And so again, all that's left is 6xh plus 3h squared minus 2h. So there's step 2. Step 3 is then to take that and divide by h. And so when you divide all of that by h, again, this h on the bottom cancels one h out of each term. So this one is going to cancel this h, one of these h's, and this h. And so then our final answer is what's left. So it's 6x plus 3h minus 2. And again, if you have any questions or concerns about any of that, let me know. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. From here,